and welcome to another episode working on this guy right there. That is Chip Foose's FD-100 by Revell. So I'll run the intro and we'll get right started. Okay guys, so we are going to do some painting today. It's basically the main focus of this particular episode. You guys saw in the last one I painted this body silver over top with a flat black primer. So that's sitting just like kind of like that. We've got kind of a silver truck right now. We're going to be changing that. You guys might notice this little guy right there. This is the color that she's going to be. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be using the Pro Scale paints. I got Candy Ruby and Candy Sapphire, basically red and blue. Mix them together. I would say, now I didn't use any actual measuring device, so I would say I mixed it about 70% blue and 30% red. Okay, and I was hoping for a purple tinge, but as I was mixing them, it's not really purple. The red just kind of turns it into almost desaturates the blue into becoming almost a black or a dark gray color. I was not happy with that, so I put a little bit more blue in there, and that's what I've come up with. Is kind of a really dark, kind of a dark bluish kind of thing, almost a blue gray, I'd say. So that's what I'm going to go with. Of course, the more coats you put on it, being a candy paint, the more coats you put on it, the more darker the color is going to be. So we'll see what it's like. I've got my air compressor set up and it's all ready to go. As I mentioned before, these Pro Scale paints come already pre-thinned, ready to spray out of the bottle. Now, I did do a little test spray, kind of just on the inside of the box, right here, kind of see that. Did a couple of test sprays just to see what it's like over white, and not very happy, so we're going to see what it looks like over the silver. That, of course, is the big game changer, right? Over the silver base. So I'm going to re-stick my little guy in there. Now, one thing I will mention, I did wet sand the body first. Wet sanded just because I want to make sure it is a nice smooth surface for the color to lay down on. Yeah, I didn't want any little dust impressions or anything like that to accidentally screw up my paint job, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to make sure that. How am I gonna hold it under here? I think so. This was the challenge before, is when I sprayed the silver, is where do I put a clip on this that it's not going to interfere with my paint job. I think if I kind of do that, that might be okay, because I'm not doing the underneath. The underneath is going to stay black. In fact, I'm going to wind up repainting the black underneath this before we're all said and done. So I'll just do that. That gives me something to hold. I'll wear my glove, of course, so I'm not spray painting my hand. So grab my glove. I will change the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. You can check out the painting cam, as I call it. And yeah, we'll get started here in a sec. Okay, now as I said, this is already mixed up in there. I just did this actually a few minutes ago, so ready to go. I'm going to see what this looks like. You kind of see the color it is there. And of course, as it thickens, the darker it gets, right? It's kind of a really dark, like I said, a gray blue kind of thing, kind of color. So pour some into my cup there. Clean this out. The thinness of the paint is very evident in the lid there. That closed up tight, and I'll change the camera and we'll get started. All right, now we're on to the painting cam. Hello. Okay, so we have this guy. I'm going to start on this edge here. We'll just see what it looks like. test spray. I do have some thinner in there, so let's just make sure I'm spraying paint and not thinner out of this thing. There we go. Okay. Looks like I am going to have to do a few coats on this because its coverage is not super evident. The coverage is not super obvious. Might wind up going back over this with just pure blue because it's really not obvious at all with any pigment. It's very desaturated. Back here. Inside box here. So I'm going to call that coat number 1 on that. Let's just put that down there. Let's go over to our body, to the cab. Okay. This is the one that's really going to be the changer. I'm just going to hold it like this while I do kind of get underneath. Forgive me for my painting technique. I'm not really letting off of the trigger as I go past it. Should be doing this. It's not really giving me any color at all. I think maybe I need to add some blue because that's not much. That's not a lot of color on there, right? Even if I try and flood it, which I don't want to do. I don't want to flood it because that's not good for anybody. Let's go back to this. I'd say the best I'm calling that is gunmetal with a hint of blue. Now that the first layer has had a chance to dry, it does look a little more blue. I will say that much. Definitely improved. looking a lot more blue than it did a minute ago, that's for sure. Okay, that's it. Coat number 2 on this one. One thing I am trying to do, is my own habit, is I don't really do very wet coats. So I'm trying to get into the habit of doing a wetter coat when I paint. Pulling back on the trigger a lot harder than I normally do. With paint that's already thinned like this, it's a little bit difficult to build up that color. I'm just about running out, so I'm going to have to get some more in my brush here before I continue. So let's get some more here. Before actually I do that, because I'm not very happy with the tint that's coming out, it's coming out a little too dark gray, so I'm going to add a little blue. A little more blue to that. You can see in the lid how bright the blue is when it's pure. And the red has really just turned it to not very good. It's not what I expected. I was expecting a more purple color. And yeah, it's not that great. Okay, so this should come out a little more blue. You can see it's a little more blue now. Fill up that cup again. Wipe that clean. Okay, let's go back. You can see now that difference. Well, maybe it's hard. It's hard to tell with this camera. It's definitely more blue than it was. Definitely more blue than it was. We've got to build the layers up slowly. If you try and flood it, you're basically not going to get anywhere. So let's go back to this guy. Let's get this guy a little more blue. Running boards first. Right in that edge there on the front fenders. Definitely getting more to the color we're expecting. Remember, my original intent was to have a really dark blue, almost purple, I figured would be the result, but I'll take this. Almost a black blue, black metallic blue, very close anyway. Let's go back to this. Like I said before, the more coats you put on it, the thicker it gets, the more pigment you wind up having. It's easy to go a little too heavy. Go. I would say we're almost there. Maybe one more coat. One more coat, maybe, I think. And I'll be at a point where I like it. I might just do pure blue over that. I think that's what I'm going to do. My next coat is just going to be pure blue. Just to give me more blue tone to it. So I'll just spray what I got. There we go. Just pure blue out of the bottle. Lighten that up and we'll get her a nice blue. Okay, this is just pure blue, as you can see. Spray a little bit until it starts coming out blue. There we go. Now we got blue. Pure blue coming out of there now. I'll give this a little bit more of a blue. really can tell that the blue is, the pure blue is changing the color tone of it for sure. It's actually making a big difference. Definitely a lot more blue now. And it's kind of hard for you to see. Sometimes in the right angle of the light you guys can see it on this camera. But it's definitely a lot more blue than it used to be. Whereas before it's just coming out of almost a dark metallic. Oops. Good thing I got it on the back panel there. That's why it's important to do your spraying properly, so you don't get splatters like that. That looks better for sure on that side. Okay, now I've got a blue truck, whereas it was kind of threatening to be just a kind of a metallic, dark gray. I need to do this side. For some reason this side is turning out not as much blue as the other side, especially around my window here. That's better. Yeah, this door panel can use a little more. There we go. I think we're going to call that pigment done. So again, it's not quite purple like I was hoping for, but I'm happy with that. It's a nice dark blue. It's not just an in-your-face crazy blue. I'm just going to do a quick little comparison to my panels here to make sure I've got similar color coverage. This could use a little more inside here in this area. I'm just going to hold on to it here while I do this. Okay, and then saturated this a little too much there. That's going to be noticeable later. But it's not the end of the world. Alright, to our front edge here, and we're going to call it done. I've totally neglected the inside of this, but that's alright. And also the bottom, I haven't really done anything with the bottom. There we go. Okay. I'm going to say she's done. Now, if I wanted to, I could take advantage of the candy paint and actually make it darker in certain areas to kind of give a bit of a shadow effect. Like on the bottom here, where it curls underneath. In real life, you would see that. You would notice the underneath is actually darker as it goes down. I'm going to duplicate that on this. Kind of do some fake shadows. Some fake shadows on this. To give it that illusion. Changing light. There we go. Okay. So, we're just going to take this off. Set this down. And I think we're good on this guy. I think we're good on this. Good. Alright, change the camera. We go back to normal. Okay. So, pretty much done. Our color is finished. It's all done. That's that. Okay. So you guys watching live, you get to watch me clean my brush. You guys who aren't watching live, we get to skip to the next part, like right about here. Yeah, right about here. Didn't say anything, right? What happened? You guys watching live, you get to see absolutely nothing happen because you get to sit there and watch me clean my airbrush. Lots of fun, lots of fun with me cleaning my airbrush. So we'll just move these back out of the way. This, that. And we'll clean up my airbrush. Because, you know, if I leave it like this, it's, paint's going to dry in the cup, it's going to dry on the needle, and then my next painting experience will not be very happy. Alright, so I got my pipette, I need my thinner. Fun stuff, fun stuff. Paint, actually, the candy paint is so thin, practically doesn't get any on the needle. The needle comes out almost super clean. Like there's not really any on the needle at all. Okay. We're ready for our next color. Let's see, what color? I thought you were done. Well, I am and I'm not. I am done painting the body, but I'm not done painting. Alright, with my brush cleaned out, we're going to focus now on our rims, our wheels. As you can see, I've got these all masked off because when I looked at reference photos of the Foose truck, his rims are not just totally chrome, okay? The spokes on them are like a dark gray or a medium gray color. I'm going to duplicate that with gunmetal, okay? I think gunmetal would be a nice complement. The reason why I have them masked is I want to keep the rim, outside edge of the rim chrome, okay? And only paint the inner rim and the spokes, the dark gray or gunmetal color, okay? Now, the challenge is getting the tape to convince itself to stay stuck on there at least long enough that I can get the color on there. Okay, I've got one that's really being picky and doesn't want to cooperate very well. So I've got Tamiya's X10 gunmetal. This is already thin. So with my brush clean, I'm going to pour some in there and I'll spray some onto my rims. And we'll see how they look when it's all done. I just want them a little dark. That's really all it is. Just a little dark so that it's not just, you know, plain shiny super bright chrome rims. Because okay, I'll change it. You can watch me here. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to spray just like this, right over top of the body. Not. Okay. So, just want to go straight at it. I realize with the brightness of the chrome, it is going to make the gunmetal really bright. That's all right though. But what this gunmetal is going to do is actually tone down a lot of that super bright reflectivity of the chrome also. This back in, this one too. Like I said, the tape wants to keep coming up a little bit. might have to do some touch up along the edges later. Once I remove the masking tape, I'll know for sure. But that won't be the end of the world if I have to do that. In fact, I think I'm just going to touch this up right now. Right along this edge, get that tape to stick down on there. Especially this side. There we go. Make sure I got enough thick enough coating on it. Now, I'm going to go on the back side of these also. I don't care so much about getting full coverage on the back. I just toning it down a little bit so it's not so bright in your face chrome, right? Like that. And that got my camera focus fixed at a certain point, so that's why it went blurry. So I don't have the autofocus turned on in that camera because of that. So there we go. Our rims are not chrome anymore. Okay, at least not that. So let's pull this tape off and have a look at our results. I know already that there's going to be spots where it didn't quite get in there because the tape was kind of peeling off a little bit, so it didn't go quite to the edge, but I got close enough that it's going to look pretty good. So let me change the camera and we'll see here. Okay, there's our rims. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to keep the super bright trim, but I wanted to get the spokes and get those a little bit dark, and just to accentuate it a little bit. Okay, so yeah, so once again, you guys watching live, you get to watch me clean my airbrush again. And for you guys not watching live, shame on you, you should be watching me live. Although, you know, and I would say in your defense, I don't exactly have any schedule laid out. I basically do this whenever I've got time, which in the last month or so I've had quite a bit of time. I had a week's vacation and had lots of time to do stuff around the house and get these videos pumped out. Like I've mentioned before, I do have a collaboration with my fiance coming up. Once I hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to build a couple of Porsche 911s. She's going to build one. She's never built a model before, so that's going to be a fun experience for her. Where did my little brush go? Did it fall down? Where's my brush? There it is. Right over here for some reason. Yeah, like I said, she's never built a model before in her life, and she's seen what I've done and stuff I do, and she's interested in giving it a try. I think her focus is going to be more on the painting. I think that's probably what she's going to enjoy the most. But we don't know because we haven't done it yet, right? It's all going to be a total learning experience for her. Having never done it before, it might be a bit daunting, right? She's never even seen what a car model kit looks like when you open the box. That's how green she is to the whole modeling experience. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to see what she's like, whether she actually enjoys this hobby or not, or if she wants to do another one. That'll be another thing. Does she really want to do it? Maybe she doesn't like the experience, and Porsche will be her first and last model she ever builds. I don't know. We will see. Okay. Clean my needle. It's important to have a clean needle. You don't want to work with dirty needles, that's for sure. Dirty needles are bad news. In more ways than one. All right, airbrush is clean. So, we're supposed to take the tires off, take the tires out, and put them on the rims now. So we have our 4 tires. Let's get these out here. And the other thing we need to do is get our axles. Okay, there's our axles. All right. So let's cheat here. Let's do that. Two nice black axles. We got to get our rims off the sprues. Our rims are 2 different widths. So clearly we have the skinny ones on the front and the wide ones on the rear. There we go. Let's just take care of that. Let me change the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so we have some nubs on the edge of these that you want to make sure you've cleaned, because you don't want it sticking out on the tire when you put these on. Okay, because if you've got a nub sticking out, it's going to be noticeable on the tire. So just make sure you've cleaned them up nice and smooth. There we go. Okay, so this is a skinny one, so let's find a skinny tire. I don't think there's any markings on the sidewalls, so the tires are the same, although the tread pattern would be different on which way you go around. So you want to make sure your lefts and rights are accurate. Okay, so I'm actually going to put it through this way. Like that. Okay. Just like that. So, if I grab my other skinny tire, I want a tire facing this tread in the same this. Okay. And then through like that. That way we can stay consistent with our tread pattern. Okay. Like that. Oh, I got the wrong camera. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I clicked on the wrong one. Okay, you get to do the other two. What I was trying to explain is the tread pattern on here. You want it to match, right? Your lefts and your rights. You want it to match. Now, whether or not, see, we've got, this is angled. I'll change the camera again here. This is angled like this, and then comes down, and then we've got a straight. Now, whether that's supposed to be on the inside or the outside, I do not know. I don't know. I'll see in the instructions if they show it. But I'm guessing they don't. Actually, they do. In the instructions, I can see that the tread pattern that is straight is towards the inside of the rim. In the inside. Which they then contradict themselves by having it towards the outside. Actually, what they've done is copy pasted the picture. On this rim, on this wheel, it's on the inside. On this wheel, it's the outside. On this wheel, it's the outside, and on this wheel, it's the inside. So they basically just contradict themselves, inside, outside, inside, outside. They've copy pasted the tire picture. So thanks a lot, Ravel. You're a great help. I'm having it on the inside of the wheel, so that's what I'm going to do here. Okay. And I'll do it on the back also. Put that through there. Just push it up over like that. Okay. There's our back with the straight tread towards the inside. And flip that around and do this. Do the same thing. Okay, now we have our rods. It's going to go in there. Push that in so it's tight. And I've got one tire ready to go. Okay. Do that for our front also. It does seem to grab onto something on the inside that makes it suddenly it's tight. Okay. So then we grab our chassis. Because that's the last part of our chassis we got to do here. So remember this little guy, our little chassis we got going on here? We're going to run our axle through here. Like so. And we've just barely got the axle sticking out there, which means I might not get a lot of bite onto that. Oh, now I've got a lot more bite on that. Just making sure. I went and put a front on with a rear. Let's get rid of that. Let's put the rear tires on with the rear tires. And I gotta put that further in. Let's get that into the axle. There we go. And just push down a little bit. There we go. Okay, now we've got our rears with our rears. And that's the important thing. We gotta get the tire back on the rim. There we go. Okay. It's pretty, it doesn't really spin. I mean, it turns, obviously. You can see me turning it, but it's not like and really loose, you know what I mean? So then we do the same with our front. Run that in through there. Get that lined up so that it actually sticks in. There we go. Gotta make sure this little shafting here actually goes inside the disc. Like that. And again, put a little bit of pressure on there. To make sure it's seated, and we've got a similar situation. It's tight, but it spins. And we have a twisted chassis. Isn't that always great? We've got torque twist. That's what we've got. That's what I'm going to call it, torque twist. Okay, so that's done. We've got our wheels on. Let's flip our page. We've got our fun little radiator. Okay, I told you guys about my radiator issue in the last episode. I've put some putty on here and I need to sand that down and file it and get this a lot smoother looking. So I'm going to move my chassis over here and I'm going to work on this and getting my putty looking a little bit better and not like a big glob of a mess. I actually want to use my little sanding sticks. I've got some tiny little sanding sticks that I use, these guys here. I've got a little short one, I think, but I don't know where it is. Perfect for getting into little spots like this, just to kind of smoothen this out a little bit and make it a little more presentable. This is going to be painted black, so it doesn't really matter so much. I just want it looking a little nice, that's all. Once I get it painted flat black, a lot of the details not going to be necessary. It's going to kind of disappear. It is going to be sitting under the hood 97% of the time of its existence. So it's not too important. But like I said, I just want to make it so it's a little bit smooth and doesn't look like crap. Like I said, I've told you guys before, I've explained I'm not a sculptor, I'm not great at this stuff. But my whole goal is that it looks half decent when it's together. So I'll show you guys how this goes together, because I got to paint my little shroud. There's two little notches, one here and here, and that's where these two little tabs go into. Okay, I've actually had to spread these tabs apart a little bit because it wants to just fall through. Now you can see I've got my fan belt for my blower. Okay, that sticks out a lot farther than what they intended for this kit, because a rad is supposed to go right up close to it. So if I put that in there, you can see my fan belt goes into my shroud. It actually will go into the radiator. So I get that lined up. It's actually going to sit like this. Okay, it's going to sit like that in my truck. Okay, now why did I do the shroud over it? I did that because I want to hide the fact if I pull the hood off, it hides the fact that the belt actually goes inside half of the radiator, and that's the whole reason for that. Okay, that's why I did that. Okay, so I'm just going to get some flat black. This guy here. Get my brush, not that brush, get my painting brush. See, I painted our electric fans, I painted those, but then after realizing it's just not going to work, that. Paint the shroud. Do the inside first. Even though I can't see the inside, I still want to make sure it's black. Even this area here. Okay. Definitely by far not a factory finish. Not a factory fan shroud at all. Not even shrouding a fan. But then that's not the point, is it? It's just about hiding the fact that our belt, our fan belt, goes inside the radiator, literally. Okay, now we also have our upper radiator hose, which is on a sprue somewhere around here that I need to dig out. I need to find it, as I have not painted that yet. Where is my last sprue? There it is. I have to paint a rad hose, this guy here. So let's paint him up. Because if I wait until it's actually on the engine, that's going to be impossible to paint. Radiator hoses have always been something that's been difficult for me. And getting them to line up, getting them to sit right, getting them actually on the engine. One thing I have noticed that's kind of funny about this kit, we have an upper radiator hose that's going to go into that little hole right there. This little hole right there. Okay? Right up there. Little hole. Okay? But there's no lower hose. There's no lower radiator hose. So we have an upper hose, but no lower. I've thought about making a lower radiator hose, and I don't know if I'm actually going to or not. I haven't decided yet whether I'm actually going to take on that task of fabricating a lower radiator hose. You might not be able to see, actually you might. Right inside here, I'm going to point to it here, right there you can see, let's see, maybe you can't. It's hard to see. The water pump pipe. Right in there, okay? It sticks out right there, okay? Where the lower hose would attach to. Kind of right up in through here. It's really hard to get in there, okay? But you could, in theory, what I actually did when I had the engine, before I even put the engine in here, I did drill a little hole in the tip of the water pump there, just in case I needed to do something with it. I drilled a hole with my pin vise. Right up in there. So if I wanted to, I could actually put a hose on there, run it down and down to the bottom of the radiator, and actually have a lower radiator hose. But like I've mentioned, you can't really see in there, and so I understand why Revell never bothered with a lower hose, because you can't really see. You can't really see in there, right? So I get it. I see. They basically looked at it and went, what's the point? Nobody's ever going to see. Once we got our radiator in here, nobody's ever going to see the lower hose. They're going to see the upper, because the upper is going to go right from here and go over to the rad. When they pull the hood off, they're going to see that hose. But for the lower, ain't nobody looking. Ain't nobody looking at the lower hose. Now, how the upper one is supposed to go on there, it looks like, see the upper, we've got our little cap here, so I guess that's supposed to go literally like that. Paint is still not quite 100% dry on this, so I'm reluctant to cut it off the sprue, but I can do that. Throw that back in there. Okay. This guy got to go in there. It's a little bit hard to get it in there if you want to do it separate. So you kind of have to do it as one effort. So I kind of want to glue this on here like this. Just glue that like that first. Okay. I'm going to have to re-bend my tabs out. So I have to bend these out. Just like that. Be careful you don't break them. If this, you have to do this on your kit, I don't know. But mine I do. To get the tabs to actually line up in these without wanting to just fall through. Okay. There we go. So, first thing I'm going to do is put some glue on my hose. Alternatively, I could glue it to the engine first. I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. But let's do that. Get that kind of convinced to go where it wants. We're going to do glue on our tabs and glue on the tip of that hose. I'll probably have to put more on later. Bottom tabs lined up there. Get this kind of going into where it's supposed to go. Trying to find where that hose is actually supposed to go. I think it's going where it's supposed to now. Yeah, my tabs are not lined up enough. And my radiator is not level. Okay, I've got it in the spot it's supposed to be, but I need to get different glue. Because my tabs don't quite match. The frame is a little wide, which is the whole problem here. So that's where I'm going to leave that. I'm going to let that sit for that glue to cure. And that's where I am going to end it for today. Okay. So we got a little bit done. We got our paint job done. It's now nice and blue. It's dry to the touch now. I want to let it cure for another hour or so, and then I will wet sand it, and then I'll put a clear coat on it. Okay. I will just let that sit and let that cure for a while. Like I said, about an hour or so. As for this, I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to let this sit and let it dry just like that, like it's supposed to be, so it's nice and happy in its home. And we'll leave that. Like I mentioned earlier, hit that subscribe button, and because when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing a collaboration with my fiance, and we're going to build a couple of Porsches together. She's never built a model in her life, and so that's going to be interesting, showing her all the ropes and stuff like that. You guys get to watch the whole thing. So, but that's not happening until we hit 1,000 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just do us that favor. Get that done. Sooner as we get that, sooner we get 1,000, the sooner we do that video. So do that for me, guys. Also hit that like button if you so like it, if you so feel like it. And yeah, like I said, I'm gonna let this sit, gonna let it dry. I want to thank you guys for all your support and all of you coming out and all that stuff. And yeah, I guess that's gonna be it for today. And we'll continue on next time. Until then, we'll see you all in the next one.